First contact miscalculation. Grand Admiral Zorik stood before the curved window of the observation deck, his four eyes fixed on the holographic display of a small blue planet. The Eldarian's scaled skin shimmered under the soft ambient light as he stroked his ceremonial chin ridge, a gesture of contemplation his species had performed for millennia. "This is the world that concerns you, scientist Nuvari?" Zorik asked, his voice a low rumble that filled the chamber. "It appears utterly unremarkable." The smaller alien stepped forward, her luminescent skin pulsing with nervous energy. The Nuvari were known throughout the hegemony for their caution and analytical minds, traits that had earned them positions as advisors, but rarely as decision-makers. "Appearances deceive, Admiral," she replied, manipulating the hologram to zoom in on the planet's surface. "These humans have achieved in a mere 12,000 years what took most species 100,000. Their rate of technological advancement is unprecedented." Zorik waved a dismissive hand. "They've barely left their atmosphere. They fight among themselves over resources that the hegemony considers trivial. Their weapons would not scratch our smallest scout vessel." The Nuvari scientist blinked her large eyes rapidly, a sign of frustration. "It is not their current capabilities that should concern us, but their potential. Our predictive models show." "Your models are theoretical," interrupted Counselor Drav, who had been listening silently from the shadows. The ancient Eldarian skin had faded to a pale gray, a mark of his 8 centuries of life. "The hegemony has incorporated thousands of species into our empire, some through diplomacy, others through necessary force. None have posed a genuine threat to our rule in 50,000 years." The Nuvari scientist's skin flashed with bright patterns, a physiological response to stress that her species had never evolved to control. "The humans are different. They possess a unique combination of traits we've never encountered before. Their adaptability, creativity, and determination make them dangerous in ways our models struggle to quantify." Zorik turned from the window, towering over the Nuvari. "Dangerous? They are fragile creatures. Their biological systems fail with minor environmental changes. Their lifespans are pitifully short, which drives them to accomplish more in their brief lives." The scientist persisted. "They embrace risk in ways most species find incomprehensible. They've survived extinction-level events multiple times. Where others would accept defeat, they innovate." Counselor Drav approached the hologram, studying the images of human cities, their primitive transportation systems, and their rudimentary information networks. "What do you propose, then?" "That we leave them alone. The position of their planet is too strategically valuable. The wormhole nexus in their system must be secured for the hegemony's expansion." The Nuvari's skin dimmed slightly. "At minimum, we should approach with extreme caution. A full cultural and technological assessment before any contact." "We've heard enough," Zorik declared. "The Expansion Council has already approved the standard integration protocol. We'll establish an observation post near their moon. After sufficient data collection, we'll proceed with first contact. If they accept our terms, they'll be granted protectorate status. If not..." His upper hand made a crushing motion. The scientist's skin pulsed with alarm. "Admiral, I implore you to reconsider. Our standard protocols were designed for predictable species. The humans are anything but predictable." Zorik had already turned away, signaling the end of the discussion. "The decision is made. Overseer Tella will leave the observation mission. Prepare the necessary briefings." As the Admiral and Counselor left the chamber, the Nuvari scientist remained, staring at the holographic Earth. Her analytical mind calculated probabilities, pathways, and outcomes. None of them favored the hegemony if they underestimated these humans. Dr. Elena Chen stared at the data stream on her monitor, her eyes burning from too many hours without sleep. The anomalous readings from the Deep Space Array had first appeared 6 months ago. Subtle distortions in the gravitational field near Jupiter that defied natural explanation. "You're still here?" Dr. Abrams asked, appearing in her doorway with 2 steaming cups of coffee. "It's 3 a.m. Elena had accepted the coffee gratefully. Something's out there, Liam. The signal changed again today. It's not random noise. It's deliberate. Liam leaned against her desk, eyeing the complex graphs and equations that covered both her screens. The CIA guys still hanging around. They've set up a permanent office down the hall, Elena confirmed. But they're not the only ones interested. The UN Security Council has been briefed. The Chinese, Russians, Europeans, they're all seeing the same thing we are. And what exactly are we seeing? Liam asked, though he already knew the answer. Elena pushed back from her desk, rubbing her eyes. Someone's watching us. They're using technology far beyond anything we possess. Their cloaking is good, but not perfect. Not against the quantum detection array we deployed last month. And they don't know we can see them. I don't think so. They're being careful, passive observation only. But they're there. A ship, maybe multiple ships, in the shadow of Jupiter's moons. Liam's expression darkened. The military response. Coordinated but quiet. No public announcements. No panic. The Security Council decided that's the best approach. They've initiated the Sentinel Protocol, the theoretical alien contact contingency plan. Liam raised an eyebrow. I thought that was just a thought experiment. Not anymore, Elena said grimly. Every major nation has redirected resources to defensive technology. The Breakthrough Propulsion Project has been accelerated. Quantum computing, AI research, weapons development. It's all happened in the background while the public remains focused on celebrity gossip and sports. A notification popped up on Elena's screen. A new data set from the array. She leaned forward, her exhaustion momentarily forgotten. They're moving, she whispered. The observation post is repositioning. Liam set down his coffee. I'll alert the response team. Overseer Tella reviewed the final observation report, her cranial ridges furrowed with concern. 3 standard cycles of passive monitoring had yielded unexpected results. The humans were more advanced in certain areas than initial assessments had indicated. Prepare the report for transmission to the expansion fleet, she ordered her communications officer. Include my personal assessment that caution is warranted. Yes, Overseer, the officer responded, his tentacles manipulating the control interface with practiced efficiency. However, I must report that our long-range communications are experiencing unexplained interference. Tella's head snapped up. Interference. From what source? Unknown, Overseer. The pattern is unlike anything in our database. A cold sensation spread through Tella's nerve clusters. Perform a full diagnostic on our detection systems. Immediately. The science officer's voice came through the ship's communication system. Overseer, I've detected an anomaly in our sensor array. It appears we're being scanned. Impossible, Tella responded automatically. Their technology is insufficient to. A proximity alert blared through the command center. On the main display, a small object appeared, approaching their position at high velocity. Analysis, Tella demanded. It appears to be a primitive probe, the science officer reported. Launched from Earth approximately 6 hours ago. It's on a direct course for our position. How could they have detected us? Tella's voice was barely a whisper. Our cloaking technology is. Overseer, the communications officer interrupted, his voice strained. The probe is transmitting a message. It's in standard mathematical sequence. They're attempting communication. Tella stared at the display, her mind racing. The humans had not only detected their presence but had launched a response. The implications were staggering. Prepare for immediate departure, she ordered. We must inform the expansion fleet. The integration protocol may need revision. As the observation ship broke orbit and accelerated away from Jupiter, Tella couldn't shake the growing sense of unease. The new very scientist's warnings echoed in her mind. Perhaps the humans were indeed different. Admiral Corvin watched as the massive expansion fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. 120 warships, each capable of laying waste to an entire continent, arranged in perfect formation. The humans would have no choice but to accept the hegemony's terms. "Status report," he demanded. "All ships present and accounted for, Admiral," his first officer responded. "The observation post has failed to respond to communication attempts." Corvin frowned. "Unusual. Prepare a scouting party to investigate their last known position. Meanwhile, proceed with the integration protocol. Position the fleet beyond their moon, but within visual range of their primitive detection systems. Let them see our power before we make contact." "Yes, Admiral." As the fleet advanced toward Earth, Corvin reviewed the data from the observation team's last transmission. The humans had made impressive technological strides for such a young species, but nothing that would pose a challenge to the hegemony. Their military forces were divided among nation-states, their weapons crude and chemical-based. Their space presence was minimal, a few primitive space stations and satellites. Yet something nagged at the Admiral's mind. The observation team's final report had mentioned anomalies, unexpected advancements in quantum physics and artificial intelligence that seemed to contradict their overall technological level. And then there was their sudden silence. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, "we're detecting unusual activity from the planet. Multiple launch signatures from various locations." Corvin straightened in his command chair. "Defense systems activated." "Yes, Admiral, but these don't appear to be weapons. They're satellites of some kind. Dozens of them, launching simultaneously from different continents. A primitive show of defiance." Corvin dismissed. "Proceed with the protocol. Establish communication on all their broadcast frequencies." The communications officer worked at his console, then looked up with confusion. "Admiral, we're experiencing interference. Something is blocking our signals." "Impossible," Corvin snapped. "Their technology couldn't possibly." "Admiral," the sensor officer's voice was sharp with alarm. "Multiple objects approaching from the far side of their moon. They were hidden from our initial scans. On the main display, a fleet of ships appeared, crude by hegemony standards, but far more advanced than anything the humans should have possessed. They moved with purpose, spreading out to surround the expansion fleet." "How is this possible?" Corvin whispered. "They shouldn't have this technology. They shouldn't have detected us at all." As the human ships closed in, the Admiral realized with growing horror that the Nuveri scientist had been right. The humans were different. They had not only detected the observation post, but had apparently learned from it. And now, they were ready. The first shots were fired not by the mighty expansion fleet, but by the supposedly primitive humans. And to the astonishment of every Uldarian present, their weapons pierced the hegemony shields as if they weren't there. The unpredictable variable. General Maya Sanchez stood in the Global Defense Command Center, a vast underground complex beneath the Rocky Mountains. Screens covered every wall, displaying the positions of Earth's defense fleet and the alien armada. "Status report," she ordered, her voice calm despite the historical gravity of the moment. "Vanguard fleet in position, General," Colonel Harris replied. "All ships reporting ready. First volley has been fired. Shields on 3 alien vessels already compromised." Maya nodded, her expression grim but determined. "And the quantum disruptors?" "Deployed and functioning. Their communication and targeting systems are experiencing cascade failures." 6 months ago, the world had changed forever when scientists confirmed the presence of alien observers near Jupiter. Instead of public panic, the world's governments had chosen a different path: silent, unified preparation. Old rivalries had been set aside in the face of a potential existential threat. The alien technology they detected had been studied from afar, their communications intercepted and partially decoded. When the observation post had suddenly departed, Earth knew it was only a matter of time before they returned in force. "They're recovering," Harris reported, "adjusting their shield frequencies. Our initial advantage is fading." Maya had expected this. "Implement Phase 2. Deploy the adaptive response units. Across the battlefield of space, smaller Earth vessels broke formation, each piloted by a human-AI hybrid consciousness. These pilots could react at machine speeds, but with human creativity and intuition, a combination that allowed them to adapt to the aliens' tactics in real time. On the main alien flagship, Admiral Corvin watched in disbelief as his mighty fleet was thrown into chaos by a species that should have been cowering in fear. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "Their weapons are penetrating our shields. Their tactics are countering our standard formations. It's as if they knew we were coming." His tactical officer, skin pale with stress, looked up from his console. "Admiral, they did know. They've been preparing for this encounter for months. Analysis suggests they detected our observation post and used it to study our technology." Corvin slammed his fist against his command chair. "Impossible. Even if they detected the post, they couldn't have learned enough to develop countermeasures so quickly." "The evidence suggests otherwise, Admiral," the officer replied. "Their weapons appear to be modified versions of our own technology. They've somehow adapted our own systems to use against us." The Admiral's mind raced. How could the humans have accomplished in months what would take most species decades? The Nouvelle scientists' warnings echoed in his memory: their adaptability, their creativity, their determination. "Admiral," the communications officer interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission from the planet. They're requesting our surrender." Corvin's 4 eyes blinked in succession, a sign of profound shock. "Preposterous. They cannot hope to defeat the might of the hegemony. Order all ships to deploy planetary subjugation protocols. We will make an example of this world." Dr. Elena Chen watched the battle unfold from the scientific analysis center adjacent to the command room. The aliens' technology was still superior in many ways, but humanity had one crucial advantage. They had been studying the aliens before the aliens realized they were being observed. "The Aldarians are repositioning," she reported to General Sanchez through the comm system. "They're moving into a formation consistent with their historical records of planetary bombardment." "Can our shields withstand their weapons?" Maya asked. Elena hesitated. "Not indefinitely, but we have another option." She sent a data package to the General's console. "The quantum entanglement device is ready. If we can get it aboard their command ship, we can temporarily disable their entire fleet." It was a desperate plan, but desperate times called for innovative solutions. The device had been developed using principles gleaned from studying the aliens' own technology, a hybrid of human ingenuity and reverse-engineered alien science. "Authorize Special Operations Team Omega," Maya ordered. "Get that device on their flagship." Aboard the stealth insertion vessel, Captain Nadia Khalid checked her team's equipment one final time. The 6-person squad represented the best of humanity, different nations, backgrounds and specialties united by a common purpose. "Remember," she told them, "we have one chance at this. The cloak will get us close, but once we're aboard, we'll have 15 minutes to reach their command center and deploy the device." The team nodded, their faces grim but determined. They had trained for this mission for months, using simulations based on the data gathered from the observation post. "Approaching target," the pilot announced. "Cloak functioning within expected parameters. 30 seconds to contact." Captain Khalid felt the familiar surge of adrenaline as their ship maneuvered through the chaos of battle, invisible to the alien sensors. Their vessel, a hybrid of human engineering and reverse-engineered alien technology, slipped through the defensive screen of the Aldarian flagship. "Contact in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The pilot's voice was steady as their ship made physical contact with the alien vessel's hull. Magnetic clamps engaged with a dull thud that reverberated through the insertion craft. "Breach team, go," Khalid ordered. Specialist Rivera pressed a device against the hull. It emitted a field that temporarily altered the molecular structure of the alien alloy, allowing them to cut through without triggering alarms. Within moments, they had created an entry point. The interior of the Aldarian ship was vast, with curved corridors bathed in blue-green light. The atmosphere was breathable, a stroke of luck they had counted on from their reconnaissance data. 15 minutes on the clock, Khalid whispered into her comm. Move out. Admiral Corvin watched as his fleet engaged the human defenses. Despite their impressive adaptation, the humans couldn't match the hegemony's raw power. Several Earth ships had already been disabled, though they had managed to take 4 Aldarian vessels with them. An unprecedented achievement for a supposedly primitive species. Continue the advance, he ordered. Prepare the bombardment sequence. A sudden alarm blared through the command center. Security breach detected in Sector 7, an officer reported. Internal sensors detecting unauthorized life forms. Corvin's scales bristled. Impossible. They couldn't have boarded us. Deploy security drones to the sector. Admiral, the tactical officer interrupted. The human fleet is changing formation. They appear to be concentrating their forces to protect their planet's northern hemisphere. They're retreating, Corvin said with satisfaction. They realize resistance is futile. Target their defensive concentrations and... The tactical officer's console suddenly went dark, followed by systems throughout the command center flickering and failing. What's happening? Corvin demanded. Unknown, Admiral. Some kind of cascade failure spreading through our systems. It's affecting the entire fleet. Captain Khalid and her team moved swiftly through the alien vessel, following the route they had memorized from simulation training. 2 Aldarian security drones had been neutralized with electromagnetic pulse weapons, another technology developed from studying the observation post. Junction ahead, Lieutenant Park whispered. Command center should be 2 levels up. A group of Aldarian crew members appeared around the corner. For a moment, humans and aliens stared at each other in mutual shock. Then the Aldarians reached for their weapons. Khalid was faster. Her weapon discharged pulses of focused energy that incapacitated 3 aliens before they could respond. Park and Rivera took down the others with precision shots. Keep moving, Khalid ordered. Our window is closing. They reached a transportation tube, similar to an elevator, but operating on gravitational manipulation. Using hacked access codes derived from months of signals intelligence, they commandeered the system to take them directly to the command level. 8 minutes remaining, Surgeon Okafor reported, checking the timer on his wrist display. The doors opened to reveal a wide corridor leading to the ship's nerve center. A dozen armed Aldarians had formed a defensive position, weapons trained on the tube entrance. Plan B, Khalid decided instantly. She nodded to technical specialist Chen, who pulled a small device from his pack and activated it. The lights throughout the corridor flickered, then went dark. The Aldarians' weapon systems, linked to the ship's power grid, suddenly failed. In the confusion, Khalid's team deployed smoke grenades filled with a compound that disrupted the aliens' superior vision. They moved through the chaos with night vision gear, neutralizing the confused defenders with non-lethal force where possible. Command center ahead, Park announced as they approached a massive sealed door. Chen moved forward with another device, this one designed to interface with the Aldarian security systems. This will take 2 minutes, he warned. Make it 1, Khalid replied, as distant alarms suggested reinforcements were on their way. On Earth, General Sanchez watched the battle with growing tension. The insertion team had gone dark after boarding the alien flagship, expected, but nerve-wracking nonetheless. The Aldarian fleet is still advancing, Colonel Harris reported. Our outer defensive line won't hold much longer. Maya nodded grimly. Order all ships to fall back to secondary positions. Prepare population centers for possible orbital bombardment. The weight of humanity's fate pressed down on her shoulders. If the Special Operations Team failed, Earth's defenses would eventually be overwhelmed by the superior alien technology and numbers. They had accomplished the impossible by bloodying the hegemony's nose, but winning the war would require something more. General, a communications officer called out, we're detecting unusual energy fluctuations from the alien flagship. Maya leaned forward. What kind of fluctuations? Consistent with the quantum entanglement device signature. I think they've done it. Admiral Corvin staggered as the lights in the command center flickered and died, replaced seconds later by dim emergency lighting. Around him, officers frantically worked at consoles that were rapidly shutting down. "What is happening?" he roared. "Some kind of cascading system failure," his chief engineer reported. "It's spreading through the quantum communication network to every ship in the fleet." The main doors to the command center burst open. Corvin turned to see a group of small bipedal creatures, humans, enter the room. Their weapons were raised but not firing. One stepped forward, clearly the leader. "Admiral Corvin," she said, the translation device at her throat converting her primitive sounds into comprehensible speech. "Your fleet is temporarily disabled. Your choice now is simple: retreat or be destroyed." Corvin stared in disbelief. "How do you know my name? How are you doing this?" "We've been studying you for months," the human replied. "While you watched us through your observation post, we were watching you. Every transmission, every data packet, every scan you performed taught us more about your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses." "Impossible," Corvin whispered, but without conviction. The evidence was all around him. "The device we've planted on your ship has created a quantum entanglement cascade," the human continued. "Your systems will remain disabled for approximately 30 minutes. That's enough time for our fleet to destroy every ship in your armada, or for you to leave our system and never return." Corvin looked at his disabled command center, at his powerless fleet floating vulnerable in space. The humans had done the unthinkable. They had defeated the technological advantage of a civilization 50,000 years, their senior in mere months. "And if we choose to leave?" he asked, mandibles clicking with suppressed rage. "Then you'll deliver a message to your hegemony," the human said, her eyes hard. "Earth is not a world to be conquered. Humanity is not a species to be subjugated. We offer friendship to those who come in peace, but any who threaten our existence will meet the same fate that nearly befell your fleet today." Corvin's 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he processed the humiliation of the moment. Yet beneath his anger, a new emotion surfaced: respect, perhaps even fear. The new very scientist had been right. These humans were different. "I will deliver your message," he said finally. "But know this, human. The hegemony has never faced defeat in 50 millennia. This setback will not be accepted lightly." The human leader's expression didn't change. "Neither will any future aggression against Earth. Remember what we accomplished in 6 months with limited exposure to your technology. Imagine what we could do with more time and motivation." 1 month later, Dr. Elena Chen stood beside General Sanchez on the observation deck of the newly commissioned Earth Defense Station Unity, watching as construction drones assembled the framework for humanity's first true interstellar vessel. "The Aldarians have withdrawn completely from our system," Maya said, studying a datapad. "Our long-range sensors show no sign of their return, at least for now." Elena nodded. "They'll be back eventually. Not as conquerors, perhaps, but they'll come. The hegemony can't ignore us now." "Will we be ready?" Maya asked. Elena gestured to the ship under construction. "The Pathfinder will be ready for its first test flight in 6 months. The quantum drive is already functioning at 60% efficiency in simulations. By combining our understanding of physics with what we learned from the Aldarians, we've advanced our technology by nearly a century." Maya smiled faintly. "All because they underestimated us." "It's what makes humans different," Elena replied. "When faced with an overwhelming threat, most species surrender. We innovate." She turned to look at the stars beyond the construction site. "There's an entire galaxy out there, filled with civilizations that have never encountered humanity. Some will be friends. Others will make the same mistake as the Aldarians," Maya finished. "They'll look at our short history, our biological fragility, our divided planet, and see only weakness." "Until it's too late," Elena agreed. "Because what they fail to understand is that our greatest strength comes from those very limitations. We dream bigger because our lives are short. We adapt faster because our bodies are fragile. We innovate constantly because we've had to overcome our own divisions. In the command center of the station, analysts were already studying the data gathered during the brief conflict. Engineers were reverse engineering captured Alderian technology. Diplomats were preparing for possible future contact with other alien civilizations. Humanity had taken its first steps onto the galactic stage, not as conquerors or the conquered, but as equals, a species that refused to be dismissed or subjugated, a species that, when pushed to the brink, revealed its true nature: adaptable, creative, determined, a species that could not be stopped. In the vastness of space, the message was spreading from one alien civilization to another: beware the humans. They are unlike any species we have encountered before. Approach with caution, or better yet, with friendship, for those who make enemies of humanity rarely get a second chance to rectify their mistake. For in the dark between the stars, a new power was rising, not through conquest or subjugation, but through the simple, unstoppable human traits of curiosity, ingenuity, and the stubborn refusal to accept the impossible.